Let's get ready to throw down.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Sales Throwdown. We are back. We're talking from our homes still because we're still in the midst of a pandemic. And last week we talked about a situation where Clint was struggling. And I had another situation that happened to a friend of mine and wanted to kind of get everybody's opinions on it. And long story short, this guy is a insurance producer. So he sells insurance. And part of the process of selling is actually taking policies to market, right? And so there's account executives, there's a back office team that helps you. And his back office team has quit. They've been poached by a competitor. So he has some pressure to produce, right? And he wants to keep his momentum, but he can't really bring in a whole lot of deals right now because there's not the team to support and actually give them the right process. So he was like, what would you do in this situation? So I'm curious, how do you guys handle this? What do you think about it? What's your first thing?
Well, does it? So let me get some clarification. How big was his staff, and how did somebody poach all of them at one time? I mean, this seems a little odd to begin with.
So good question. So my understanding is that it wasn't the whole back office team, but it was two people who were crucial because they were attached to most of this guy's work. So the person who this is going to fall on now is kind of a manager. So they're a little bit, I think, probably struggling to get the roles replaced because two people left. So I don't know that there's like a direct handoff to someone else and you can keep going at the same rate. That wasn't the gist that I got from my friend. So
I like this I like this problem because it hits home to me recently because I just lost my senior estimator 3 weeks ago. Out of no hard feelings, no hatred, just left to another state for a better deal to retire, right? And crucial to my process, much like it sounds like these people are. And what you realize is how much those people do for you that you don't even know. But it also allows you some freedom to change some procedures in the way you do things, right? Now you're getting to, if you're lucky enough to hire on some new people or bring people up within the company, things that were mistakes, but you couldn't really change because of the seniority or because of how you've done things for so long, it allows you some freedom to be able to change the processes to the new. So that's one positive out of the deal that I can think of. The other side of it too is, if you work an extra, and I'm kind of finding this right now, if I work a few extra hours and I have everybody else load up a little bit on the duties that guy performed, we're making it right now, right? Yeah. Do I need to hire that person back, or do we all need to maximize our performance to a certain point where we're all, 110%? We need to hire that person down the road. That's another kind of thing I saw a head pop by.
Exactly, his little head. Boom, 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 boom.
But yeah, so I mean, I'm just trying to look at some positive things because it just happened to me. A few positive things that came out of what just recently happened in that scenario.
Well, what's really interesting about this situation is the way that the team is compensated, right? So for a long time, this office didn't have producers on it. Some turnover had happened. And so what had happened was they had made an adjustment to paying out these account executives to really facilitate more farming and cross-selling. So the back office team, which is supposed to help the producers, is also being incentivized at a higher rate to farm their own deals with their own things like this. So I view it as a really big opportunity as well, because now you can build a team that's going to be focused around helping the producers produce, as opposed to just a bunch of account executives who are really good at farming in and amongst each other and want to work their deals, as opposed to like actually helping the sales team, which is what their role is. This isn't like me being like, oh, everyone's got to help support sales. That's what this role is really built to do. But of course they have other incentivizations to work their own stuff because that pays them out at a higher rate. So
what you're saying is these people, the front sales guys sell, and then when you say produce, they're the producers.
Yeah.
But the back office then upsells the client into other issues and works certain accounts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So is that the division of labor? I'm just trying to understand the dynamic.
Or produces the necessary information for the sales guy to close the deal.
Right, but I
It's a
understand
little
that.
bit of both. Yeah.
But how did they go get extra grease? Because it sounds like one's an admin position, but then you just simply said they have their own farming they can do inside, so they can sell as well. It sounds like.
Yeah. So what had happened was, when you're an insurance producer, you're building a book of business that you more or less own. So if you leave the company, then the company inherits those accounts as house accounts. So these account executives can do renewals and take things out to market and do things for like the house accounts, and that pays them higher than the cut that they
helping me as a producer.
Yes.
Well, that's a little effed up on the pay scale. It seems like it de-incentivizes new business from within. Now, if my income's tied to, and I'm a headhunter and I'm looking for the next, I'm the sales guy. But if I've got my back office that gets more off of working on the easier stuff that's already in house, yeah, that's management issues right there, in my opinion. That's
100%.
That's screwing the company as a whole, in my opinion.
And to be honest, that's why they left.
You think so?
Yes.
Because they didn't want all that
Extra
responsibility?
money?
Or yeah.
No, it's the other way. Because it's not guaranteed money. It's you've got to try to get all this stuff done for extra money. We're giving you this kind of book of business at probably a really low salary. Right.
Okay, good point. I agree with Clint on that one. That I've got to hustle, then I've got to hustle, and if I just got, if I could just concentrate, I don't want to be a salesperson, but my extra grease is
Let me tell you, in construction, one of the hardest sales to make is the sales guy for the construction job goes out, he sells a new building, they put it up, let's say a hotel. They build a hotel. Now the service department in your own company has their own salespeople. They've got to go try to sell into that hotel so that your competitors don't get in there and take the ongoing service, right? The annual service, right?
Exactly.
I'm going to tell you
carpet turnovers, maintenance issues.
Yep, that is a tough freaking sale, boys. It is tough because those people just spent a lot of cash. They might have spent all they had to put the building up. They can't even talk about if things break. Why would it break? You guys just put it in brand new. You know what I mean? So I totally get that, right? That upsell side of the business is tough. Even though you were handed a golden goose, so to speak, right? You're handed this book of business. That's not easy sales. And you're going to pay a guy $50,000 a year and then promise him all this commission on the back end. Bullshit.
Well, the other thing is that for once upon a time, it kind of made sense, right? Because like this is a cost center, right? This office, right? So incentivizing the account executives to go off and do this thing, and they were doing fairly well at it, right? And then they got some new producers in, and one of my friends is one of those guys, and they're starting to do really well. But now all these account executives are overwhelmed because they have to take this stuff out to market because they're a broker. So they're going out trying to get the best deal that they possibly can on this coverage, which requires these account executives that have the relationships and everything else like this. So it made sense at one point. It kind of doesn't make sense now. And with two of the four people leaving, look, if I was running that thing, I would be like, okay, awesome. We're changing the comp plan. If that means you need to go, then that's fine. But we're trying to build a team around our producers. So,
but this is going to be a domino effect inside that company, right? Because now your two leading producers just left, right? The two guys that
so hold on a second. These are not producers. These are like back office account executives. Sure. Okay.
But I mean, they produce stuff, right? For your company. You can't survive
internally.
Internally.
So two people leave, right? For a better deal. If you don't think that the other two that strive to be those best two, the third and the fourth, aren't trying to find those positions. Hey, if they left, they're doing one of two things. Either I'm going to slide into this position unearned, right? Because they need me, or I'm going to go try to make that deal because there's a market for it out there now. Right. And that's a tough spot to be in. So when one domino falls, guys, watch out, they tend to fall.
How big is this company that we're talking about, the brokerage firm?
They're huge.
Okay. So they've got some redundancy then.
Of course. It's not a small shop.
Okay. So they may have a method to their madness where they can
maybe
they've.
I mean, any big organization.
Hold on, Clint.
This can't be the first time that this is happening. They're probably pretty easy to adapt to change.
Well, so sure, right? And with a big company, there's cushion and things like this. But my friend is like, what do I do? Because I can't really bring in a whole lot of deals right now because I'm not going to be able to work them. Stuff's going to get fallen in the cracks. I'm not really sure. And part of this like vetting process and going to market, he's not allowed to do, right? Like it's like clearly defined that they don't want him doing these things. So
and this company's this large, but doesn't have the ability to slide somebody in to help him with his business load.
I mean, I think they're going to try, but
wow, that's
so
unique.
This is a prime example of do more with less. I mean, this the like absolute definition of it, right? And you have to now when you could do, let's say, 60 deals a week, right? You bring in 60 new opportunities and close, let's say 10 of them, right? Not a bad hit ratio, right? Because you have the ability to go out and get 60. Now you don't. You have half of your ability, or maybe even less than that. Now you can only do 20 to 30 deals a week, but you still need to win 10, right? So qualifications of your customers, qualifications of the deals, you don't have the back end power to just bring all this stuff and throw it at the company and say, everybody get this done for me so that we win 10. Now you've got to win 50, 60% of the things you bring in. That's a whole nother scenario.
Your targeting has got to be much tighter.
Let me ask you this, John. Now, is he presented his leads? I mean, is he just a grinder with, hey, the company's large enough, we do all this marketing, and so here's your set of leads. These are the leads.
So
always be closing.
The way that it works is this company works very, very old school, right? They bring in lots and lots of like brand new college graduated people whose family have got connections, and then go get it, skip, kind of deal. And you get a base for like a year, and then it starts to like step off a little bit as you're supposed to be growing your commissions and stuff. But it's very, very old school, which, there's not anything bad about that. But the thing that I told him was that, okay, I wouldn't be super focused on direct to client stuff, but I would be doubling down on my development of like referral partners and stuff like this, because he can partner really well with wealth managers, right? Because he's on the personal line side, so they want to talk about risk, and so all of this stuff like kind of makes sense. And I'm like, man, I would keep the foot on the gas around that, and just make sure that you're doing what's necessary on the frontline stuff. But I wouldn't be trying to bog myself down with a bunch of work I'm not going to be able to get through the process.
So John, I have a couple questions for you in this situation.
Sure.
What is the position of this guy that brought this issue to you? What is his title? What does he do?
So he's a sales guy, outside sales guy. Biz
so
guy.
he lost his workforce in the back to really drive this stuff home.
He lost 2 out of the 4. And they support all of DFW. So
okay. Let me ask you this: can you mention the name of the firm?
Not going to mention the name of the firm now.
Okay, not gonna do it. No.
So something that we haven't really hit on is the underlying reason of why these people were just so up to leave for a few dollars an hour or more, or in my business it's always a few dollars an hour more, right?
Yeah.
What happened? What kind of environment did they work in every day that as soon as somebody gave them a better deal, they hopped, right? Because I've popped
and not one but 2 hopped.
But
did
2,
they both go to? Did they go to the same company?
Yeah. The story. Okay, so the story that I've heard is that company came along, was talking to, and who knows if they reached out to them, or if the company reached out to them, or who initiated what. But essentially, a company came along, offered this person a better deal than they were currently getting, which, according to my information, was solid, over 6 figures of income. And then they said, okay, cool, come work with us, and you can build out your team. Is there anybody else you would like to bring with you? And they mentioned somebody else, and so then they made them an offer.
And they're not. No non-competes. They just walked.
They're not salespeople, man. So they're just account executives. So a lot of people don't actually put account executives under like NDA, which I kind of think is a bad thing if you're concerned about that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's hard to move stuff around from company to company, but because
it may be unique to the industry. That's just not a practice. So sure.
Yeah,
I mean, I can see
that. But even then, with your NDAs and all that stuff, like somebody still has to prosecute it, right? And
absolutely,
that's not an easy task.
Yeah, that's like the same thing as like copyright infringement. Like just because you go through all of those hoops doesn't mean that people aren't going to rip you off. It just means that you can sue them if you choose to do so.
That's right.
Same thing with an
the
NDA.
juice isn't worth the squeeze most of the time.
Absolutely, right. So if this was you, what would you be doing right now, right?
Oh, I could tell you. I would tell you that I hit on earlier is like, okay, all the processes that I couldn't do because of these senior people, right? That, hey, don't bring me, especially backdoor people. You're bringing me this deal. I don't want it like this. I want it like this because this is the way I'm used to seeing it for 15 years. You have the ability now to change that, which can be a great thing, and it might actually make you more producing. The other side of it too is, man, you really have to treat people. You got to train people and treat people to want to stay with you no matter what the offer is out there. and I found that
I agree with Clint. Yeah. You're on the right track. Keep talking.
I've literally left companies for, more money, and I got there and the money that I earned more wasn't worth the problems that they had. Right. And, I've left companies for less money and went to more challenges because that's just who I am, and found way more gratification in that project. And I'll tell you, like, that people that leave you, they're leaving you for reasons. They're not, and right now it's a hard time because people are leaving you for money, and they will absolutely do it. But I will tell you, you need to take a hard look. If people do this to you, especially your inner office, your core people, I'm telling you, they leave because they don't feel appreciated. They feel like you're getting you're the quarterback, right? As a salesperson, you're kind of the quarterback of the football team. The linemen are doing all the heavy lifting. They're protecting your ass. They're making you do all the, you're out there running and gunning and playing golf 3 times a week, winning these deals, getting paid, pulling up in the new Mercedes. And these guys are driving, Pintos. Like, this happens, right? This is not a phenomenon. This is what happens. And, you got to take care of those people, man. They're your workforce.
I have the first employee I ever hired 25 years ago, and I'm proud to say that. I say it all the time. I mean, and I have had one employee retire that was with me for 20-something years. And that longevity is the success to a company my size, right? Yeah. Turnover happens, right? But it's usually because I want it to happen, not because they want to go. They're trying to figure out how to keep their job, because there is a value to putting effort into your employees and the work environment. Because if you're in a caustic environment, right? I mean, that's a hard day for everybody to get up and go to, right?
Yeah. And I'll tell you this, I'm going to give you a little motivational speech here, but I refuse to play a football game because I love football and that's kind of my sport. I refuse to play on the same team with the 10 other guys. So 11 of us total. I refuse to play with 10 other people that don't want to be there. I refuse to play that game. I would rather play with 3 people and get my ass kicked every day with people that are all in, no matter the cost.
I agree.
So, okay. So hold on there, right? Because I think we're coming up on a point here. How do you because Clint, you often talk about the fact, well, if you don't like it, then we're not supposed to work together.
To my point, exactly.
So where do you, because I do think that there's a lot about company culture that, could be addressed and changed, especially right now with like everybody working remotely from home. And, I'm a big advocate for good company culture and like showing people that they're, meaningful to the team and everything else like this. But some people just, it's either not alignment or not the right time or not the right person and stuff like that.
Sure.
Not everybody's a fit for that,
Yeah.
But ultimately,
you got to cut those people out though and be okay with it, right?
100%. And to that point, like we did that before COVID happened. And had I foreseen COVID happening, I probably wouldn't have cut them because we needed the bandwidth, right? But at the time, they were poison. They were just poison. And the attitude was wrong. Everything they did was just not what we wanted. And I didn't want to reward those people the same as I reward the people that come in every day with their head held high. And so we cut that, right? We cut those people. And that was based on performance and attitude and a lot of other things. It didn't have anything to do with the pandemic. And then the pandemic happens a month later, And it's like, gosh, I really wish I had those bodies because now I need people out there knocking on doors. So now I got to come up with a new strategy, but I don't regret it by any means because, God, can you imagine a down culture with down people? Holy shit. I mean, I can't even fathom that.
You know, if you, and I've got 22, 24 employees, something in that range. And if they're not all rowing in the same direction, right? If we're not all, working our processes hand in hand, so we get through the day with the patients, or we get the materials out to the hospital, or we get the radiology reads, we can break down pretty quickly, right? Because everybody plays a key part in all of that. So if you're working in a small to medium-sized business, you don't have a ton of redundancy, right? So if all the cogs don't fit well together, man, as a manager or a sales guy, and you turn around and this isn't working or that isn't working, wow, man, you're just making for a long-ass day, a long-ass week, and, a long career.
And I'll say this, that like and we had to do this too, is like, when you're a really big company, sometimes you forget where you came from, right? You forget when it was just two people, a sales guy and an operations guy that started a company and worked 130 hours a week. And now all of a sudden let's say you're a $1 billion organization and you have departments that handle all of that stuff that you used to do on a Sunday morning at 3 a.m. You forget that, right? So now everybody's just working 35, 40-hour weeks, just, can't wait till Friday. That mentality sets in, that complacency, right? And when things like this happen, in my mind, it's like, is everybody at max capacity? And we say it here all the time is, before we hire this person, is everybody at max capacity? Because if they're not, we need to get everybody there first, right? And we're going to push their buttons.
I do the same thing. I do the same thing. I sit down and I say, can somebody else do part of this so that we don't have to hire someone? Yep. And then when they're at max capacity, when we are, when we're working extra hours, when I see overtime, because I look at overtime, and you know what I say to overtime is, well, I'd have to hire another person, so that'd be 40 hours at regular time. Is overtime past that? Or do I? Yep. So, man, you do a balance of the books. What if we incentivize extended hours, did some flex days off? I mean, you start getting creative, guys, because if you think the old business model wins this today, no.
I can't have 30 engineers in an office building with 30 secretaries sitting out there beside the door. That's gone, 60 years ago? Like that's gone, right? And you just got to put these people on the task that they have at hand and get it done. And when you get to the point, right, everybody has a breaking point. You take that little white flag and you wave it, right? And you let me know. And I will constantly check in with people like, hey, you're saying you can't get this done. Is this you waving the white flag? Yeah, absolutely. Here's why, because I have this and this and this. No problem. If I take this off your plate and shuffle it over here, does that free you up to get this done at the best of your ability? And if the answer is yes, I will absolutely take that off your plate. Yeah. Right. But if this is you being lazy, that's a whole nother ballgame.
Yeah. So we're going to go through his process and figure out, because as is with everybody, right? Once you get a little bit busy, you start putting more and more on the support team if you have it and stuff like this. So he's probably putting some stuff on the support team that we can pull back and own as part of like his process. Yep. And so that way, absolutely, the stuff that does come through can get worked, and it's not the burden that it might sometimes be, because you've got good solid people and you've got some trust. That they can get stuff across the finish line for you. But if you're the salesperson, right, and you want to keep the momentum and you want to make sure that you're not getting complacent, like, where do you put your focus right now?
On qualify hard, because every deal that you bring in has to make it through the process of the back end that you don't have anymore. Right. Yeah. So if you're bringing in shit deals because once you brought in a shit deal, they processed it, you didn't get it, no big deal. But now everything you do, you have half the capacity and probably a less efficient half capacity. Now what you got to bring in has to close, or a very high probability of it.
I don't know the dynamic of this guy's business. Is this guy successful? I mean, is he a grinder? I mean, is he like, hey, I'm so busy out there selling and closing deals, I've got to have this? Or is this a security blanket? Because the first thing that pops into my mind is, what can you outsource? What, how much more workload can the other two pick up?
Yep.
And does he have to grind 60 deals to get his 10? Because Clint brought up a good point. If he qualifies better, but maybe it's a numbers game, right? In the insurance business, I can see where that's just a grind. So I say I would be looking at outsourcing. I would be looking at, what is it, what's the company's position on this little, situation? There are a couple of variables here. And I would think, though, if he can salvage this, he may actually come out feeling better at the end of the day. I mean, sometimes these are great opportunities to reflect on your process and how to shorten it, or what, how you can just, break it up into smaller bites. Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to approach it.
At this point, it's an attitude. It's already happened. Yeah. Now reflect on why did it happen, and if you don't want that to happen again, what do I need to change?
Yeah.
And he's already there. So now make the best of it. Change is inevitable. Sometimes it sounds like he maybe was a little complacent if he didn't see this coming. So,
I don't really know, because I don't really know how much control he had over this thing, because like the entire team kind of supports everybody, but these two people were kind of like assigned to him as additional help and things like this. So, it could have just been a better deal. I mean, I don't really want to too much conjecture about why they left and who's responsible for it and stuff like this, because it largely doesn't matter anymore, right? But the thing that I'm talking about with him is like, okay, cool, like you got to stay hungry and keep the momentum going forward, right? Because, they could have this filled in 2 weeks, but if you take your foot off the gas now of like having conversations and networking and, keeping stuff moving forward, you're not going to see that lag for potentially, 2 to 3 months after that. So like this is the time to keep that all moving forward while, setting appropriate expectations. But I would be much more focused on like referrals and like centers of influence and that stuff as opposed to direct client stuff.
No, but sometimes. Go ahead. I was going to say, I mean, I don't know what it takes to close, a whale in his business or a big deal. Mm-hmm. I mean, this could potentially hamstring his capabilities of fulfillment, right? That portion of the process. And that's a scary idea when you're out there saying, I got a couple of big things working and we're going to look like crap on, on the fulfillment side of this. And that is a real issue, right?
Yeah,
so, yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Clint,
sorry, I didn't mean to.
What were you going to say?
I like the attitude part in them because right now you have to overcome, you have to adapt, overcome. I'll point at this point.
I knew you would go. I was going to.
It's not wrong. You
let me drink some of the Kool-Aid.
You overcome. Hey, drink the Kool-Aid all you want. It's right. Like you have to realize the situation.
I do agree.
You have to drive it home, and I like the attitude portion of it. The other side of it, of that little statement too, is, can you overcome it? Right? Is that even in your mentality to do that? And if it's not, this little trying time, if that's going to get the better of you, that you lost your back door, well, were you the winner or were they the winner? Right. And I think you have to look at yourself a little bit on that.
For sure. Right. And part of this is, according to my understanding, which is only coming from one person, is that part of this they don't want him doing, right? So it wasn't like hey, he got super busy and super swamped, so then this person came in to do this thing. Like this is part of the process. They don't want the producers trying to chase down the best pricing and the best markets and stuff like this. So that kind of makes sense, right? Division labor.
I mean, you of all people, John, you know that as soon as somebody stops doing this process to move into this process, you just screwed everything we've ever known about data. You just threw all that out the window. Now we got to create a whole new database.
Absolutely.
So I agree with that.
Yeah, but I thought that was really interesting because I don't have to deal with that like at all, and Clint does a little bit because, if his whole team like gets up and leaves, and they're a big enough company that there's still production pressure, right?
Every day.
Yeah, and same thing in this company, right? I don't know if they're publicly traded, but it wouldn't surprise me if they were. I mean, they're substantial. So, there's the easing of quota is not going to be there, right? So you kind of got to make do the best you can with about that. But I would be doubling down on trying to find the best like top end deals that I could, so that way I don't have to do a volume approach. I can do like a surgical approach of like, okay, cool. I would have worked on this with the team, but now that the team isn't here, I have to do more. So I don't think I'm the right one to help you.
Yeah. I tell you, my biggest concern with all of it is when this situation happens, and I'm not talking about just this guy and his problem, but in general, when people leave you and you become shorthanded, it's usually not a capacity issue. Can we get this done? It's more of a uncomfortable issue. Yeah. I'm used to working 20 hours a week as a sales guy. I get to go golfing in the mornings. Nobody bothers me. I'm bringing in deals. I get to do all this stuff. And now that those guys left me, now I have to work my full 40 or my full 50, 60 hours a week. Mm-hmm. And you're making me feel uncomfortable. Therefore I bitch and this isn't right. You're treating me wrong. And then I leave. Right.
Yeah.
But that's
and there's always,
there's
always this like idea that like, there's stigma of like, oh, the salesperson said all of these things, they've made all these agreements and now it's on us to fulfill. And I hear this in a lot of the companies that I work with, right? There's always
my business all day long.
Buddy. There's always animosity between like the sales team and the back office team, right? And part of that is because of bad communication, and part of it is because of bad process and things like this, and that's why I'm able to help them. But there's always this idea that I go back to that I kind of I think I get this from Jocko more than like anywhere else, but like you can either be beholden to the prospect and do everything you can. Oh yeah, sure, man. We'll get that out to you. When do you need it? All the stuff at the expense of your team, or you can be beholden to the team sometimes at the expense of your prospect. Like, hey, we're not going to be able to get that done in 2 days because our team is going to take 3 to 4. Are you okay with that? Right? You can put that pressure either on the prospect or you can put it on your team. But when you keep putting it on the team over and over and over and over again, I do agree with what Clint and I have been talking about, that you are going to burn people out.
Well, the key there is to set the right expectations on both
absolutely.
sides of that equation, right?
Yeah.
And don't overpromise it to the point that your team cannot deliver. But then also respect the fact that if your team is at its maximum capacity and that, don't break your machine, right? Because you can't mow the yard if the lawnmower won't start, right?
And then, let's talk about it this other way, right? You're getting really incentivized to work your own deals, right? You're not getting paid the same amount to work this salesperson's deals. And the salesperson,
where I think that's
I know, yeah.
Right there.
And to me, like,
that's when the guy goes, yeah, I'm getting to it.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's when you have to frame the whole situation differently, right? Because essentially that situation, because it was for so long, is like cool. You guys sell because you guys have to support the cost center. Well, now that there's a producer back, that focus should shift back to doing that. But the agreement was already in place around commissions and everything else like this. And this leader apparently doesn't seem super confident and comfortable about going back and saying, okay, we're changing the pay scale. But now that these two people have left, I'd be in there changing that pay scale so fast.
That is so hard, man. You could have a mutiny in a New York minute when you take money away.
No, I know.
I mean, you better be prepared to hire. But
sure,
hold on,
right?
You better be prepared to hire 2 more, and then however many other centers you have these same 4 and 4, 2 and 2, however they do it. But yes, you could create. Because you're going to do that to me. I'm like, look, if I'm good, I'm seeing the writing on the wall that
I get it.
You
right?
could rip it out from underneath me at a New York minute. So,
and I'm not saying, and I realize that this is a delicate thing. We're talking about it in a vacuum, and I'm coming across kind of like the Axeman, if you don't like it, leave. But, there is something to be said about like, hey, like this is the vision of our company, like if I was still working for Al and I was like, cool, I'm going to do all of this other stuff. Well, man, you still got to go and do this thing that you're required to do. Right. And, once again, I think it's mystification between like the leader, the producers, and the back office team, and nobody knows how they're supposed to align. And I'm sure you could structure this way so that way for like 1 year, the drop off isn't as bad. So that, you're not hungry, but you are incentivized to like work with the team and build the team together.
But it's in my opinion, it would be very simple, where you incentivize them through the new sales process and helps your frontline guys. Mm-hmm. They don't lose anything. They just got to work it a different way. And you do this, right?
Yep.
There's more, and it's the same money to you at the end of the day, with a better structure of where your emphasis should be, which is on this new growth with some grease on upping the sales, or cultivating or farming from within your own house accounts.
Yeah, and I'm not saying
how hard is that?
Yeah, I'm not saying to completely take out like all the commission, but if you're making 15% on stuff you cross sell internally on your own book, you now get 10, and you now get 20 on stuff that you help the producers close, right? It's all shifting to make sure that the value alignment is there.
Yep.
But you can only like optimize for like one thing, right? Like, and this is something I've been thinking about a lot. Like, you can optimize for quality, you can optimize for speed, you can optimize for cost, you can optimize a team to help, protect the producers so that way they're bringing in a constant flood of new business, or you can incentivize people to just like cross sell the crap out of all the existing accounts. But then what happens is if there's not an influx of new business, how do you solve for that?
Why wouldn't you do all of that though? Everything you just said,
because I don't think you
working
can.
towards perfect. Well, I think you can.
Because it's a
and I
chain.
think successful companies do.
I don't.
But I think that if you're going to be really, really good, right, and perform at a really high level, you have to cut out stuff, right? And sometimes that means, okay, we're not going to, it's all about where you're putting the focus.
Your staff spending 4 effing hours on their phone instead of working, right? You get them to lunch and you get them back. You sort of shorten all the nonsense that really takes production down to 4 hours on an 8-hour day.
I will tell you, in a pretty large company myself, my thought is always get back to where you came from. Don't ever forget where you started from. And in every company I've worked in since I've started working in construction has always lost sight of that, right? At some point, right? I need another accounting person. I need another project manager. I need another this, because if I don't hire that person, I'm going to put this person in an uncomfortable position that they have to work more hours, right? But when we first started growing, when we first started doing all this stuff, everybody worked 100 hours a week. Everybody worked 90 hours a week. What are you talking about? Get back to that mentality. I'm not saying push your people to work ungodly hours. By no means am I saying that. What I'm saying is to Doc's point a little bit of like, okay, this guy says he's at 100% capacity, but I just saw him eat lunch for 2 hours. I just saw him walk up and down the hallway talking to other people in the office for an hour. That's 80% capacity. That's not 100. So if I take that 20 and this other person's 20 and the other person's 20 and I put it together, I get to 100 really quickly, especially in a very large organization. So I'm not saying cut back. What I'm saying is maximize potential that you have. Grow with that.
I would agree with
that. With the current pandemic, if you're not willing to up your game at whatever level it is you perform in your company, right? I'm telling you, the gravy train of unemployment just left. And it wasn't a long train, right? That $600 extra a week is gone, and it's going lower. You do not want to be unemployed or in a transition. You lock your teeth in tight to whatever good that you have going on and make it better, because this world is going to get worse before it gets better. And write that down. Take that to the bank, as Beretta would say.
So I do have something to add to this, and I think if my company ever saw this, I hope they don't, but I'm going to say this anyway.
No.
As you broadcast from the company,
the phone lines are lighting up right now. They can't wait to hear.
What I will say is this: don't, at the same time, in all the downturn, people have let a lot of people go because A, they were dead weight, 2, they didn't need them, or 3, they couldn't afford them, right? Like there's people been let go, and this economy will bounce back. And I agree. Almost bet you that none of those people will hire those same people back. They can't. It's too much pride involved. There's too much animosity. How are you going to trust a guy that you let go to come back and do a good job? He's probably just not going to do that. So I will say this: keep your ears and eyes open. If something, another company, somewhere you wanted to move to and work for. So I'm kind of playing the devil's advocate on these two, right? Is that if something pops up and, man, you've been waiting for that position for a long time, or a little bit extra pay in another company to do the same thing, those opportunities, if they're not out there right now, they sure as fuck will be in 6 months from now.
I have a story. I have something, guys. Go ahead. But yeah, I have something germane to that.
So I think that obviously there's a balance between those two things, right? Because you can get wrapped up in an idea of like, I can fix this, right? And then you're skipping opportunities because you're like, I can fix this, I can win this, I can do this right here. And I think you have to be like really honest with yourself about the impact that you can have in a role. This guy Matt, who's a fan of the show, reached out and we had a role play conversation, and he was talking about a situation where he's a consultant, sold this company a solution, and they're like, cool, we'll buy it if we can hire you full time and you come on and you help support it, which he didn't really want to do, but he was excited about the concept and the idea. So he took the job, and they were no longer listening to his ideas. And he was like, man, I'm so frustrated. I didn't want this job in the first place. I just wanted to give them a solution and be on my way. And now they've hired me, and now they're not listening to any of my advice. And so we're talking about this on the role play. And I said, well, man, like, how do you feel about it? And he's like, it's frustrating, all this. And I was like, okay, cool. You need to go tell them that. And he was like, well, what do you mean? And I was like, look, man, you're in a spot to where, you're not really being listened to, but you were brought there because you were supposed to have good ideas, and now they're not listening to them. Like, and you seem like you feel bad about taking their money. And he was like, yeah. I said, go tell them you feel bad for taking their money when they're not going to listen to your advice. But be aware that you might get canned at the end of it. I'm like, what are your thoughts on that? And he was like, well, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. And I said, okay. So then a week later, he sends me a message, and he was like, man, I did exactly what you said. I was like, cool, man, how'd it go? And he was like, I don't work there anymore. And I was like, oh, God, I'm so sorry, And he goes, don't be sorry. I'm so excited. And that was exactly the advice I needed, But I think that there's spots to where you can tell yourself that, like, I can be the change. I can make all these things happen. But you also have to be able to zoom out a little bit, detach, from like the Jocko camp, and really look at this as, can you impact change, or are you staring at the good poker table, sitting at the bad poker table because you want to win back the $20 that you've lost on this poker table?
Okay, so to my point, I'm challenging everybody out there to because this was a real situation in my business. Can you go ask your superior for a letter of recommendation? And will they write it for you? Knowing that there are mass layoffs out there, and that might be good to have it should you have to go somewhere else. And the person who asked me for a letter of recommendation got an amazing letter of recommendation and a $20,000 raise.
What? So this person? No, are you kidding me?
So Doc, are you
now
hiring?
it is built off of all 20,000 is built off of current performance and current trajectory. So if cash flow is there, but there's a base to this though. There is a solid up in the base. But to reach the end zone, there's probably 10 of that 20 is built off of income for the business.
Hold on. Okay. I have so many questions here. Okay. So someone comes into your office and they say, hey, Al, can you write me a letter of recommendation because I might be leaving? And you say, here's a $20,000 raise. Like, how does the conversation?
No. The conversation started on their end. We had spent a year working on a project that had really consumed a ton of time and a ton of extra effort. It was the 2 new clinics that we have coming off the ground, right? Mm-hmm. And that took a lot of effort. And along the way, she wasn't the only one who has performed and gotten, this individual, I kind of gave away her gender. Her gender.
Man, if you wanted to like leave and work someplace else, I would have given you a job.
No, and it wasn't Nan. But what ended up happening was it was like, hey, I'd like to get a letter of recommendation, and can I have it and I said, sure, I can do one of those for you. What's this about? And she says, well, we went through a little bit of a conversation of, remember discussions we've had and the inflection points and where we needed to be. And she understands, how things were going. And I said, okay, let's talk about this. It seems like this is also a bridge to, you need more out of this, out of the company, right? Am I hearing that correctly? And I mean, I'm telling you, I didn't give more than I should, and I did it in a way that worked out. But guys, if companies are letting people go, but they're keeping you, why are they keeping you and letting the other person go?
Nan wants to push back on so much of this. Like she's just over the.
I don't blame her.
Nan has her opinion. Wait a second. Nan has her opinion, but she doesn't have all the facts and figures, right? She's just, right.
Interesting.
Yeah. So hey, if the timing is right and you think you're someone they don't want to leave, now's the time to see what the cash coffers look like.
All right, guys, we're at 42. So let's go around real quick, right? If you're in a spot, if you're in this guy's spot, what are you doing over the next 7 days and 30 days, starting from now, Clint?
So evaluate everything that you have currently. That's the first step, right? Evaluate your capacity, evaluate what you need to do, put it on paper, put it in a spreadsheet, whatever you got to do to make sense in your own brain. Evaluate everything you need to do. And then easily out of that, now that you know everything that you need to do, what your capacity is, you can formulate a plan to execute, right? And you work towards that goal of execution. Maybe it is hire 2 more back-end people because it's a necessity. But I challenge you to learn the capacity of what you have, because I just bet you that it's not at 100%. But if it is, okay, we hire 2 new people. What does that look like? How do we compensate those people? Why did those people leave me? How do I make it better so that these people stay with me for 15 years and they don't leave me? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of factors in there, but evaluate, plan, attack.
Al, what you got? 7 days, 30 days.
Ask for a letter of recommendation, right? Well,
man, what are you doing tomorrow?
But then the question will be, how do you fill the void? Just like Clint, I got nothing new to add to that. But you're going to have to solve this situation. And what is your capacity to move lateral if it isn't a right fit for the way you want to do business going forward? You're the sales guy. You should have opportunities galore if you're killing it in this environment.
Yeah. Nanette, what you got?
That's a perplexing question, is it not? I would just say be in the know, and optimize your situation, because change is always good. And if you look at it as bad, it will be bad. You speak what's going to happen. So if you have change in front of you, understand what happened, to the best of your ability, and then optimize your situation.
Interesting. For me, well, first of all, if I'm Nan or anybody working for Al, I'm going to go ask for a letter of recommendation ASAP. For me, I was really, I'm big on momentum, right? And, stuff slips away if it's not directly in front of you. So if you've got KPIs and goals about your weekly activities and things you have to be doing, I would be adjusting that into like either really targeted stuff or more networky stuff, which has got a little bit longer of a timeline. But I really like what Clint and Al have been talking about. If you have support people on your team, do they like you? Like, are they incentivized to work for you? Are they bought into the mission, and all of those things? And I do like the idea of looking at this as a learning opportunity of okay, cool. Why do we think these people left? How do we make sure that this doesn't happen again? And taking some ownership of that, man. I think y'all all hit it out of the park. This was awesome. This was really, really good. So if you're in sales or if you know somebody else in sales who might be struggling with some of these situations we're talking about, please share this with them. If you're watching us on YouTube and you're seeing Clint's amazing Marine Corps sticker behind him, because he's the only one. Actually, Al's pretty well lit. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment. If you would like to give us some feedback about how to improve this, or if you have a story or something you were caught up on, send us a tweet, send us a message on Facebook, send us an email. If you want to take the assessment, reach out to us, disc@salesthrowdown.com. We'll get you hooked up, and we'll catch everybody real soon. Go kill it and stay safe.